CEO of the NITI Aayog, B.V.R. Subrahmanyam, joins us. Mr. Subrahmanyam, many thanks for joining us. Several sectors being addressed, several measures being taken. Of course, the thread of continuity running through the course of the budget. Your highlights and what you believe the maximum impact is likely to be on account of Budget 26.
So, this is a budget of a middle-income country. That's the first thing. And this is a budget for Viksit Bharat. And you can see very large elements, and the finance minister laid that out very, very early on. She talked about three kartavyas. The three kartavyas are for economic growth, aspirations, and inclusivity across regions, individuals, communities. And within that, I think if you should see the three budgets of the last year and the year before as a package deal. The budget 2 years ago was all about jobs and employment as the key focus with supportive things. The previous budget was a lot of manufacturing. If there is one big area of focus in this budget, it is services. So if I was to give a name to this budget, it is a services budget and continuing the good work of the previous two budgets, which is manufacturing and jobs and employment.
Let me double down on that. Why do you believe that this is a services budget, sir? Because there was a lot in the budget to also try and push the manufacturing sector more. What specifically makes you believe that this is a services budget?
Okay, just wait for the key highlights of the budget come out. The maximum number of pages are devoted to services, number one. Number two, just let me explain what all are there. First of all, the Prime Minister has announced a high-level standing committee, which is not a one-time committee, a standing committee on services. That is expected to drive a whole host of services reforms. So unlike a manufacturing mission, services actually requires a large number of issues to be tackled over 30-40 ministries. So she said that she'll be creating a standing committee. Two, look at all the sectors that she's been covering. I mean, in services, she has talked about the entire health sector, 5 medical hubs, medical tourism. In education, she's talked about 5 university cities. What are these university cities? They are education hubs where you have universities, you've got research parks, you've got manufacturing, all in those places. She's given a lot of attention to tourism. She's given a lot of attention to Ayush, 3 All India Institutes of Ayush. She's talked about sports and talked about a Khelo India mission. She's talked about the orange economy and the Indian Institute of Creative Technology and creating and setting up these creativity centers in 50,000 schools and 500 colleges. All this, I think, put together makes this a very, very, very strong budget pushing the services sector. And it's not that manufacturing doesn't get important. We are building on the work of the previous budget as far as manufacturing is concerned. The National Manufacturing Mission was announced in the previous budget. It is in the final stages and should get operationalized any moment from as we speak. And there you have biopharma, which is an add-on. You have the electronic component scheme, which is a build-up on an earlier scheme which was announced last year. It was hugely successful. She's expanded it from 25,000 crores to 40,000 crores. There is a mention of a container program, huge emphasis on labor-intensive textiles, sports goods, and you can see the manufacturing builds on what was announced last time, and the new emphasis and focus is on services. We are not talking about health, education, etc. for servicing our population alone now. We are talking about making India a global services hub and she gave a very clear target, 10% of global services output to come from India. That's the goal she's laid out.
Yes, and that is why, in your words, this is a services budget. The finance minister laying out that aspiration of 10% of global services to come from India. But on manufacturing specifically, sir, I want you to put on your former Commerce Secretary hat as well. The expectation was that we would see a significant further import duty rationalization. That has not been the case. There are, of course, specific exemptions to specific sectors, for instance, nuclear power, cloud service providers, and so on and so forth. Do you believe that that hasn't been done on account of the fact that various FTAs are being inked and are at various stages of being implemented?
Look, we already now have FTAs with almost, 1/3 or more of the world economy. We've got FTA with EU, we have FTAs anyway with Japan, etc. We have FTA with UK. There is a deal in the pipeline with the United States. The FTAs are anyway going around cutting tariffs. The residual tariffs are now left with countries with whom we do not want to or may not want to get into FTAs. Having said that, look at the amount of time she has spent on the indirect taxes part. There's been a lot of tinkering. They're all removing pain points. Take electronic component. For warehouses, she's cut down the tax structure to 2%. She's allowed greater import for a large number of export-intensive sectors like leather, textiles. She's allowed, I think, 5% of their export value to be imported for a lot of other inputs which are there. So I think there's a lot of tinkering that has gone on to help manufacturing as far as inputs are concerned. And on the direct taxes side also, you will see that a lot of direct taxes are targeting foreign direct investment. People are, the word may or may not appear too often, but you look at the safe harbor rules, the expansion of the safe harbor to companies up to 2,000 crore turnover and fixing the safe harbor at a lower rate of 15% actually is targeting the global capability centers. 1,600 GCCs are going to benefit from that safe harbor provision. They've also decriminalized a lot of income tax provisions in an act which is yet to come into place from 1st of April. So that's actually a very, very forward-looking step she's taken. And then she's also reduced the safe harbor for people who are going to take up presumptive taxation. So I think, and even for SEZ, she's given a one-off relaxation in being able to sell in domestic tariff areas. So rather than, the big things have already been done. What needs to be done is these minor pain points, and she's going around removing it. And the other thing is, she has talked about setting up a committee to look at the forex debt borrowing rules and regulations. So we have so far been focusing only on FPI, which is equity. She's focusing on debt as well. So as that committee comes out with its results, you will see an improvement in the foreign investment flows into the country also.
No, very important points, and I think that point on safe harbor is very well made, Mr. Subrahmanyam. This has been a point of friction, and I think the finance minister has alluded to some of those concerns and tried to allay them in this budget. But Mr. Subrahmanyam, there was another mention by the finance minister, and I'm wondering if you have any more clarity on what this restructuring of PFC and RFC could potentially mean, because those were the two companies that she listed out that are going to be up for restructuring. Any idea, sir, on what the plan is?
You see, I think that we will need a bit more clarity as we go along, but the way I look at it is one of the challenges of Vikasit Bharat is also going to be sustainability. So there is going to be a lot of retooling of our energy sector, and the retooling of the energy sector requires a lot of green and climate finance. So this green finance, if it has to come through, it has to come through existing financial institutions rather than setting up new institutions. So when she talks about this, the way I would read it is enabling these companies to become the funnels for getting a lot of green finance, climate finance into India, into the energy sector, the transport sector, because climate change in India is going to be resolved largely through electrification of entire energy system. And who are the big financing agencies as far as electrification is concerned? REC and PFC. I think that's the way I would see that. I'd like to draw your attention to one more point, which people may or may not. She talked about city economic regions. This is actually the work of NITI. NITI has prepared city economic region plans for Mumbai, Varanasi, for Visakhapatnam, for Surat, and we are going to release one on Bhubaneswar. 7, 8 more are in the pipeline. And she said, I will give 5,000 crores for city economic region in a challenge mode. This will then enable these cities to actually compete and become global cities like New York, London. So we can have Bombay becoming a New York, we can have Surat becoming, say, Amsterdam, you can have Visakhapatnam becoming a Singapore. I think that is the intent behind the city economic region announcement. The 7 areas of focus she announced in the beginning had city economic regions as one of them. So if this budget has to be remembered, A, services, removing a lot of pain points in taxation, both for foreign investment flows and promote manufacturing, particularly for exports. And the third is focusing on critical infrastructure in various parts, that is cities as economic regions. She's talked about 7 high-speed rail corridors, which means the bullet trains are going to stay. We're also going to produce bullet trains in the long run in the country. And the third is for Purvodaya, for the eastern region, a large number of announcements, and the most important one, a new dedicated freight corridor. Dankuni, please read it as Calcutta. Dankuni is the point at one end up to Surat. That's east-west. We have Delhi-Mumbai, we have Delhi-Calcutta. She's completing the triangle, Delhi-Calcutta, with a lot of other projects going with that. This is going to give a big boost to industrial and other services growth in eastern India.
No, absolutely. You very comprehensively summed up many of the other important announcements that came in from the finance minister, of course, including things like a 10,000 crore rupee allocation for container building. That is another sector that has been identified. Also for ship repair, another sector that's been identified. Mr. Subrahmanyam, we will come back to you, sir. As we see that manufacturing competitiveness report finally being made public. But thank you very much for your first reaction here on CNBC TV18 on the big day, the budget day, for comprehensively summing up Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's 9th budget. Thanks very much.